An 11-year-old boy is pulled out of a wrecked race car. The grandstand at Charlotte Motor Speedway goes completely silent. Nobody in that crowd knew, in that exact moment, whether he was okay. And nobody watching from home knew either. What they did know was this. 4 days earlier, that same boy had won the biggest race of his young life. And 2 months earlier, he had lost his father in front of the entire racing world. This is the story of Brexton Busch. And by the end of this video, you will understand why one single sentence his mother posted the next morning made an entire sport stop scrolling and start crying. Let's go back to where this really begins. May 21st, 2026. Kyle Busch, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, one of the winningest drivers in the history of the sport, was testing in a racing simulator in Concord, North Carolina, when he suddenly became unresponsive. He was rushed to a hospital in Charlotte. Within hours, his family confirmed he had been hospitalized with a severe illness. Later that same day, the news no one wanted to hear. Kyle Busch was gone. He was 41 years old. 2 days later, the family shared the medical explanation. Severe pneumonia had progressed into sepsis, and the complications came on fast and overwhelming. He had been set to race in the Coca-Cola 600 that same weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the track where he was hospitalized, the track where he died. And you'll want to remember this, the same track where his son would return less than 2 months later. If a story like this is moving you already, this is exactly the kind of coverage we live for on NASCAR Report today. Hit that subscribe button now, because where this story goes next, you will not want to miss. Kyle Busch left behind his wife, Samantha, his 11-year-old son Brexton, and his 4-year-old daughter, Lennox. And in the days after his death, something happened that nobody expected. The family did not disappear from the racetrack. They went back to it. Less than 2 weeks after losing his father, Brexton Busch was photographed back behind the wheel of a Legends car at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Grief didn't stop him. If anything, it seemed to pull him back toward the one place that still felt like his dad. Now fast forward to July 17th, Port City Raceway, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brexton is racing multiple divisions that weekend, driving the number 18, his father's number, the number Kyle carried through the most dominant years of his career at Joe Gibbs Racing. And in the restricted micro sprint class, Brexton wins the A-Main, his very first A-Main win in that class. And it is also the first time he has stood in victory lane since the day his father died. He wrote about it himself. In his own words, on his own account, he said this was his first win since his dad passed. He admitted he doesn't like talking about it much, but that the last 2 months have been really tough. And then came the line that spread across the entire racing community. He described missing his crew chief, his driver coach, and his dad, all in the same breath, because for Brexton Busch, those were never 3 different people. They were one person, his father. He closed it out saying he believed his dad would be proud. And then, simply, "We love and miss you so much, Dad." Read that again. An 11-year-old boy, describing his own father as the person who filled 3 roles in his racing life. That's not something a broadcaster wrote for him. That's how he processed the biggest win of his career. His mother Samantha posted that night too. She said it was their first win since losing Kyle, and that she had never felt so proud and so heartbroken in the same moment. She talked about what that day would have meant to her husband, how nothing made him happier than watching Brexton race, tinkering on the car beforehand, then being the first one sprinting to victory lane with that huge grin. She said this family would keep going from one racetrack to the next, because that's where their best memories were made and where they intend to keep making new ones. You would think, after a moment like that, the next chapter of this story would be a celebration. It is not. And what happened 4 days later is the reason we're telling you this story today. Stick with us, because what happens next at Charlotte Motor Speedway is the moment that stopped an entire sport in its tracks. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because this family story is far from over. July 21st. Exactly 2 months to the day since Kyle Busch died. Brexton Busch is entered in the Young Lions feature at the Cookout Summer Shootout at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The same track, the same soil where his father took his last breath in a hospital bed just weeks earlier. Early in the race, cars ahead of Brexton make contact with each other. The drivers behind have almost no time to react. Brexton's car slams into the vehicle in front of him. That impact triggers a chain reaction, and his car is struck again and again as the wreck tears through the pack. The race stops instantly. And here is the moment that made this story go from a local racing incident to a national conversation. When the cars finally came to rest, Brexton Busch did not climb out on his own. Safety crews had to pull him from the car, in front of a crowd that had come to watch a Tuesday night Legends race, and instead watched a grieving 11-year-old boy get lifted out of a wreck 2 months to the day after burying his father. According to someone who commented on the video his mother later shared, the speedway went completely silent in that moment. Video of the crash spread fast, and for hours, actual hours, nobody outside that family knew if Brexton was okay. Multiple Legends cars were reported to have sustained heavy damage in that pileup. Every driver involved was shaken. But here is the update that mattered more than any other detail in this story. Every single driver in that wreck was evaluated, and every single one of them walked away. Confirmation came the next day, July 22nd, when Samantha Busch posted to her Instagram stories. She said Brexton had wrecked out after a hard hit the night before, but that he was doing fine. And then she added the detail that tells you everything you need to know about this. She said he'd be back on dirt that same night. She admitted she tried to get him to take the day off, rest, recover. His response? An eye roll. That's it. A boy who had just been pulled out of a mangled race car, told by his mother to take a single day off, rolled his eyes at her, and went dirt track racing that same evening. If you're feeling something right now watching this unfold, you are not alone, and this is exactly why we cover these stories in full, with the respect they deserve. Make sure you're subscribed to NASCAR Report today, because stories like this one are why this channel exists. Now, to really understand why this hit the racing community as hard as it did, you have to understand who Kyle Busch was. 63 Cup Series wins, 9th all-time, 102 wins in the second-tier series, 69 Truck Series wins, 234 National Series victories combined, more than any driver in NASCAR history. 2 championships, in 2015 and 2019 with Joe Gibbs Racing, before moving to Richard Childress Racing and just days before he died, Kyle posted something to Instagram that nobody could have known would be one of his last public messages. It was for Brexton's 11th birthday. He wrote that he and Samantha were so proud of who their son was turning out to be. Brexton's birthday and his father's death fell within the same 3 weeks of each other. Since then, people across the racing world have said they see something of Kyle in the way his son has handled all of this. And maybe that's true, but it's worth remembering, Brexton Busch is not a symbol, and he's not a continuation of his father's legacy. He is a child, an 11-year-old who lost his dad in May, and who has kept showing up at the racetrack anyway. Samantha put it best herself. She said Brexton continues to amaze her. His determination, his resilience, the way he keeps showing up to do what he loves, even while carrying so much weight at such a young age. Earlier this month, after a family trip to Idaho, she wrote about what grief actually feels like from the inside. She said the trip gave them what they needed, but that grief is strange, that she constantly feels like she's living in 2 worlds at once. 2 things being true at the same time, wishing they were making these memories with Kyle, instead of learning how to make them without him. And the line that so many people have quoted since, that heartbreak and joy no longer exist separately for her family anymore. They simply live side by side, in every single moment. That's the reality behind every race weekend this family has had since. A 4-year-old daughter, Lennox, too young to fully understand what's missing. An 11-year-old son, racing in his father's number, in his father's memory, at the track where his father died. And a mother, holding all of it together in public, one Instagram post at a time. So here's where things stand right now. Brexton Busch was involved in a serious multi-car wreck at Charlotte Motor Speedway on July 21st, and had to be helped out of the car. He was evaluated. He was not seriously injured, and neither was anyone else in that crash. He was racing again the very next night. 4 days before that crash, he won the first A-main of his career, and his family has made it clear they are not stepping away from the racetrack. They're going to keep showing up, race after race, together. Before you go, what stood out to you most about how this family, and especially Brexton, has handled the last 2 months? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one. And that's where we'll leave this story for now. If this video meant something to you, do us a favor and hit subscribe, because we'll be following the Busch family and every major story in this sport, right here on NASCAR Report today. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. We'll see you in the next one.